Okay, so we've made good progress, and now what we're going to tackle in this chapter will be the seat pan, okay? So you may notice that the grid, the way it's positioned, this is my auxiliary construction plane that I created so that I could flatten the cross section by using the function project to C plane, okay? This is an important function to remember, project to C plane, so keep that in mind. And you can save the construction grid because in the future, if you start, changing your construction grid position, you can definitely save it. And to do that, you just right-click on the Perspective tab. You go to Set C Plane, and all the way down, it says Named C Planes. If you click on Named C Planes, you've got here a menu that's that already saved the world top, front, and right C planes, but I'm going to save it here by clicking on the little floppy disk, Save As, and you can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to keep it as C plane 01, just to show you, and that's it. Okay, so now if I close this, and I want to reset the construction grid back to its original settings, well, I know that the original setting for that grid is the world C plane, all right? So remember that. Right click on the Perspective tab, you go to Set C Plane, and you go to World Top here, all right? So if you click on World Top, it's going to reset to the XY grid and reset the origin point exactly as it were at the very beginning when you started the project. If you want, for example, the left viewport, you can go back to Set C Plane, and you can have either the left or the right viewport, doesn't matter, it's the same thing. Okay, there it is. So this is the same as the grid that you see on the left viewport here. All right. And if I go on this, if I right click on the Perspective tab and I go back to Set C Plane and I go to the front viewport, that's this grid. So when I zoom out here, this is the back viewport and this is the front grid. And the front grid is the same as the back grid. Obviously, it's just that the view is reversed. All right, but it's basically the same construction grid. All right. So I hope that makes it more clear for some of you how the different planes work. And as a reminder, you just right-click on Perspective tab, Set C Plane, bring it back to World Top, and there you have it. Now, if you want to bring back the auxiliary construction plane, you just right-click on Perspective tab, it's always the same thing, Set C Plane, and you got here C plane 01. So you just click on C plane 01, and there's your auxiliary construction plane. All right, so let's bring back to the World Top, Set C Plane, World Top, there you have it. Okay. So now, like I said, I want to work on the seat pan, and I'm going to use subdivision constructions. If I just hide my layers temporarily, so let's hide layer 01, 02, 03, and let's just select this and hide it like that. All right, so if we look at the sketch, it's this shape. Now what I did in my own model, I used NURBS surfacing technique, but I think I'm going to use this time subdivisions, since it's a new tool that is being used in Rhino, and I think it would be beneficial to explore a bit more the NURBS, the subdivision functions. All right, so I'm going to show you the technique, and because I did it in NURBS, as you can see, this is the side view, what it looks like. If you follow my cursor, it's a sort of bucket that bends, made of carbon fiber, whatever, doesn't matter. Could be fiberglass, I guess. I don't know. It's a sort of bucket that holds the seat pan and hides some of the structure for the recline and all that stuff. Okay. And I have to say, between doing it in NURBS and doing in Sub-D, because I've tried both techniques, Sub-D is by far the easier approach. NURBS requires a bit more time, a bit more patience. I'm not saying that it's difficult. It's not true at all. It's not that difficult. It's more challenging, yes, okay, but it's not difficult, okay. But the Sub-D function, it makes it very, very easy, and I'm going to show you how I tackle this. So if I go in the top view, and I zoom in the different views like that, maybe I'm going to work on a new layer. So layer 05, I'm going to make it active, and instead of being white, Let's make it black like that. So I just click on the color swatch, and so whatever line I sketch on that layer, it's going to be black. All right, so now I want to draw a subd primitive. So you've got here at the bottom different primitives for your subd, and typically when people drawings using subds, they like to start with a primitive and start deforming it and sculpting it. Okay, so you've got your cone, your truncated cone, your cylinder, your sphere, your torus, spheroid, and here you've got a plane. So I'm going to create out of a plane, all right, a simple plane. So I'm going to click on create subd plane, and I'm going to go on the top view, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle, and I'm going to make it about this big, like that. Actually, I'm going to click undo, and let's do it again. Sorry, let's do a create subd plane, and instead of making halfway, no, I'm going to make it full for now, and then I'm going to modify it. So I'm just going to make it full like that, and maybe position it about this much. All right, so when I was creating my subd plane, I forgot to mention this, my X and Y count were set at 4 segments, 4 segments by 4 segments, okay? So that's what it looks like. If I press the tab key, let me switch to the shaded mode. You can see that it's definitely square, okay? It's a rectangle. If I press the tab key again, it's gonna round off the corners as you see here, all right? So, okay, there's my plane. I'm just gonna bring it up like this, there you go. Maybe switch to ghosted mode. So if I press the tab key, that's what I have, and tab like that, okay? So, because my segments are quite apart, this segment, like if I press Control Shift and I highlight that by double clicking and select all these segments here, this segment is quite apart from this one, the upper one, this one, okay? And because they're quite apart, when I press tab key, it's gonna round off a lot. If I add another segment here, it's going to make the corners sharper. I know I mentioned that before, but I want to emphasize on that aspect. And also in the other direction, if I go along this direction, let me highlight my edges, okay? If I add another segment here, it's going to make this corner sharper as well, okay? So keep that in mind for the beginners, because it's important how you're going to play with the shapes. But at the beginning, I always said keep the segment numbers very small, because it's going to be a lot easier to manipulate your subd at the beginning. So I just have a count of 4 by 4 in the X and Y direction. I'm going to select that rectangle, and I'm just going to bring it up so that I can line it up about here in the back or front viewport. All right, so here it is. So I'm not adding any thickness, I'm just going to shape it at first. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do now that I've done that, I'm going to Control Shift, I'm going to select these segments from the top view, and I'm going to delete that. All right, I'm just going to work on like I did for the cushions, only half of it. So what I'm going to do now, knowing that the origin point is at 0 here, I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to type in 0, and there's my line. Now what I need to do is make sure that this segment here is lined up with this line. All right. To do that, I'm going to press Control Shift. I'm going to select all my segments of my subd model, and now I can snap in vertex. On my snapping toolbar, I have vertex checked. Check also project. All right. Because I don't want it to snap to the line directly. And you can have either perpendicular, you can have near, checked as well, because I need to snap to the line. So I'm just going to click on the Move tool on my main toolbar, and I'm going to snap to this vertex. And because I selected the whole segment, if I zoom out, you can see that the whole segment is selected. So I can snap to this vertex, for example. There it is, projected vertex. And I'm just going to drag it so that I can snap in near. So if you snap in near, however, make sure that you press the shift key, all right? That way it's gonna find the intersect, because if you snap in here, it doesn't know where exactly. So press the shift key, and then it's gonna find the intersection of your vertex with that line, basically. All right, and then you do just deselect. That way I know that this segment is perfectly aligned with the symmetry line, which is the y-axis. All right, so now I can select that line that I sketched and I can delete that. I don't need it anymore. Now that I've done that, I'm gonna have to reflect this Subd tool. So again, in the toolbar, I go back to my reflect Subd object, which is here. Click on it, select the object that you want to reflect. So the start a reflection plane, it's going to be my y-axis. So I'm going to click on y, pick a point on the side to keep. So I'm going to pick on the left-hand side of my y-axis, doesn't matter where, and then snap to reflection plane. I'm just going to leave it to automatic and just right click, and there's my reflection being applied. All right, so now if I press tab, that's what it looks like. And there's something interesting that I see. When I press the tab key, I'm missing segments here. So I'm curious as to why it happened. Let me see. If I click on do, I just want to see something. I see that I've erased some segments. It seems I've erased some segments, so I'm going to have to redo that. So I'm going to select these faces. I made a mistake, so I'm just going to redo that quickly. So make sure that you don't erase these segments, but I could have added them in the Subd mode, but that's okay. So I'm going to select this, and then I'm going to do a reflect again on the y-axis. Pick a point, left-hand side, right-click, and there's my reflect, and all the segments are here. So if I press the tab key, this is good. All right. So yeah, pay attention to make sure that you keep all the segments, such as these ones that I erased them by mistake. All right, so now I've done that, and I want to also check that the symmetry works well. So if I for example, press Control Shift and it's like this vertex, and I move it on the side, yeah, it should work. All right, so now I can undo. This is good. All right, now that I've done that, I can start modifying my shape. So I'm going to take Control Shift and select this row of segments from the top view, and I'm just going to drag it up like that. Now I noticed something. Because I started with a very simple shape, I need to add more segments here. Obviously, the distance between this segment and that segment is so great that you have it's an oversimplified shape. So I'm going to add a segment here. And I'm going to press Control Shift. I'm going to select, for example, this segment. And then I'm in the Subd tool, I'm going to select Edge Ring. So I'm going to left click that, and it's going to automatically select all these segments. And again, like I've done previously, I'm going to insert edge. So I click on Insert Edge, and you can snap in midpoint on your snapping toolbar if you wish. Just uncheck Project. Maybe you can uncheck Vertex and Near. Just have Mid checked, and it's going to find the mid of your Subd object. So now you can see that I've added this rule. So Control Shift, and I'm going to select one by one these segments. And I'm just going to drag it down like this, and maybe with the gumball, pull it on the side like that. So I'm starting to add a bit of details. If I press the tab key, that's what it looks like. All right. If I press the tab key again, I go back to my box modeling mode. So now if I go to the left view, I have this shape here. So maybe I'm going to add segments, a row of segments here. So I'm going to select this segment like that, and I'm going to do Insert Edge, and I can snap in mid if I want. You don't need to necessarily snap in mid because I'm going to move these segments anyways. But yeah, because I can see that I have this sort of shape, I have this segment, and maybe, well, I'm going to start moving those points now. So I'm going to Control Shift, I'm going to select these 2 points and just drag them up a bit like that. Control Shift, and I'm going to select these points here. Control Shift, I'm going to select these segments or points like that. So let's press the tab key to see what it looks like in the subd mode, like that. I'm gonna take this row of segments and I'm just gonna drag it maybe over here, select that vertex. So again, I'm just sculpting my object, as you can see, trying to follow the shape. Something like that. I'm gonna click on do here. I'm gonna press the tab key because I want to see in box. You see what's going on here? Because in smooth mode, you're stretching your vertices and your faces. When you go back to the box mode by pressing the tab key, sometimes you end up with something that looks very weird. And I always advise you to switch back to the box mode and not to modify too much in the soft mode, because you end up having geometries looking like that. So I'm just going to rectify that. This vertex is way too low. I'm going to bring it back up like that. And I just want to check on the other side. Yeah, I need to drag it like this. And I've got something else that looks a bit weird. It's this vertex here that looks a bit off. So I need to drag it like that. Okay. So yeah, the box mode is an important item. So instead of dragging my segments, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add another segment here. All right. So I'm going to select Control Shift. I'm going to select these segments like that. And I'm going to add another edge. So I'm going to click on Insert Edge, and I can snap in mid like so. I press the Tab key. I'm going to take Control Shift and I'm going to bring this down a bit. That looks better. So you see, you need sometimes to add more segments, otherwise it's going to mess up your geometry. Here also, I'm going to add some more edges. It's too oversimplified. So I'm going to press the Tab key to go back in the box model mode. Control Shift, and I'm going to select, whoops, I'm going to select one by one these segments. Down to the mid plane like this. And then I'm going to add, so Insert Edge. Maybe I'm going to add two segments. So I'm going to select also this. I'm going to do a select ring and then Insert Edge. And maybe I'm going to add it here. So I've added quite a few more faces now compared to the original shape. So now I want to drag this. Drag that like this. So I always switch, as you can see, between the box model and the soft model. Here I'm going to add another segment. So if I press the Tab key, I'm going to select these segments now. I can do an edge ring to propagate along that direction, and then I'm going to do Insert Edge, and let's add, yeah, over here an edge. Okay, so that's pretty good. Maybe I'm going to select this vertex and just drag it a bit more aft like that. Tab key, and actually let's try and move both vertices like that. Not bad. Let's take these vertices. Oops. Okay, so what's happening if I press Control Shift and I do with my cursor from left to right, I'm going to select all the faces as well. Okay, if you notice, if I do a selection on this left hand side to the right hand side, it's a plain box, and that means everything that is selected within that box will be selected, obviously. If I go from the right hand side to the left hand side, you can see that my box is dashed point. That means anything that touches that box, that dashed line, basically will be selected. That means that I'm selecting the faces as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch to the wireframe mode, and I'm going to press Control Shift and I'm going to draw a box from the left hand side to the right hand side so that I can select only my vertices and my segments. So I'm going to select that and just move this like that. Press the tab key. Looks good. Okay, that's not bad. And then maybe, let's see, if I took this and I moved this like that. So now I'm working with the soft mode, and I want to make sure that, so I'm going to select these segments here. Whoops, I made a mistake. So what happened is that I pressed the key with the left mouse button, and now I'm rotating as if I was in a sort of perspective view. And to reset that view, you just right click on the left thumbnail, you go to set view, and you go and select left. And it's going to reset it back to its orthographic mode, okay? It can happen to you sometimes, so don't hesitate. Or if you want, you can also right click on this icon and it's going to reset all 4 viewports. All right, so let me press the tab key. That's not bad. So I see that I need to add another segment here. So let me do that. I'm going to select this segment, for example. And now if I click on edge ring, it's going to understand that it has to go along this direction. And then I do another insert edge. And let's snap in mid, for example. Yeah. And then if I press the tab key to have the soft mode, I'm going to select that vertex and just drag it like that. Yeah, that's not bad. I like the shape of that much better than the previous one. That's not bad. Maybe just drag this a bit further like that. So always inspect in the perspective view, obviously, your model. So I just want to see what it looks like overall. If you like the shape, you just stick to it, you know. Now what you could do, if I just hide the background images, what you could do also is if I press Ctrl Shift and I select these faces, so you can see that the blue faces are the back faces, okay? So my normals are pointing inwards. I'm going to change that. But I could select, for example, well, actually, I'm not going to select these faces, only the ones in the center. I want to make it a bit rounder. So I'm just going to bring it down these faces only. So you can select, obviously, the vertex, the vertices, the segments, or the faces to modify your object. And now I've got a very nice organic shape. And that was done very quickly, opposed to doing it with NURBS tools, okay? So this is a big advantage when you're shaping organic shapes like that. It's a big advantage. So I'm just going to flip the normals. I'm going to select my object and I'm going to click on Analyze Direction, and then I'm just going to click on Flip All and right click. That way my back faces are facing inwards. So I'm going to select, for example, these faces. I'm going to bring back my background image, and that's it. So I'm going to slightly pull them outside like that. I want to flare them a bit more. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, maybe I might want to scale it a bit more. Something like that, okay? And if you're happy with the shape, the top view. So what I'm going to do with the top view, I'm going to select this vertex and I'm just going to bring it like that. That looks pretty good. But if I move this one and this one a bit higher like that, and then I press the tab key and I want to check overall what it looks like. It looks good to me. It's nice. I don't see overlapping surfaces or vertices. Everything is nice and clean, and that's the way I want it. You can add more segments if you want, but try not to overdo it either. You know, it's because if you start adding details later on, it can be messy also. So try to keep it with the sufficient amount of segments and vertices. In my case, I'm pretty happy with what I have. All right, so I can do that. All right, so now I can select my Subd model, and there's a function here in the Subd tools, and it's the offset function. So I need to find it, and here it is. It's called offset Subd. So I'm going to click on that, and you can either make it offset outwards. You can click on flip all and offset inwards, or you can also do it both sides. All right, it's up to you. So in my case, let's see what okay, let's say that I'm about midway. So let's try both sides. You have solid equals yes. I'm going to click on both sides, and I've got a distance of 0.25. Let's see what it does. And then I'm just going to right click, and there you have it. I have a nice Subd tool right here. Okay. So that was very fast and very easy to do. And there you have it. All right. So try and do that, and then I'll show you later on how to add the fillets to it. All right. Thank you.